Alrighty, so this is my second mock. We'll kind of just review the first mock as we go on. So let's get into it. So Tennessee number one overall. My verdict on this is it's not necessarily Tennessee picking. It's whoever trades up to number one because apparently there is significant interest in moving up to number one, and if somebody's moving assets to get up to number one, they're coming up for a quarterback, and they're going to come up for Cam Ward. So it's not necessarily Tennessee's pick that I think is going to be Cam Ward. I think it's just going to be number one overall. And my last mock, I had Tennessee taking Travis Hunter. So a little bit of a switch up today. Cleveland, the last mock I did, I had Abdul Carter going to Cleveland. That isn't changing. Myles Garrett's, speaking of things not changing, Myles Garrett's mind is not changing. He wants out. So draft his replacement. He's going to be an absolute monster. New York Giants, number 3 overall. I had him take Cam Ward in the last mock. This year, this is probably the highest Sanders goes. I'm not going to have Sanders go here. I'm going to have Hunter go here. Best corner in the class. Top 4 receiver in the class. So, yeah, I like what Travis Hunter brings to the table on defense. He can provide a little bit more explosiveness on offense as well. New England at 4. So New England's got a lot of holes they need to fill. Tackle, Will Campbell had a great combine today. Defensive tackle would be awesome with their holes just along the defensive line. Receivers obviously a need, but I don't think they're going to fill that with pick 4 here. Maybe if they trade down, they'll explore that. Free agency, I think they'll explore a receiver there. So I think receivers kind of off the board for New England in the first round. I mean, Ashton Jetty's cool and all, but New England's going to take care of got a lot more needs to take care of. So I think Will Campbell's a pick here. Now, this is my dark horse landing spot for Jonty, just because of Jacksonville's history of taking running backs super high in the draft, with taking MJD and taking Fournette very high in the draft. You could see Jonty coming off the board here. I like the fit, but there's another guy here that they desperately, desperately need alongside Trayvon Walker, and I think Mason Graham is just that guy. So number 5 to Jacksonville is Mason Graham. And last mock I did, I also had Mason Graham go to Jacksonville, and I also had Will Campbell go to New England. So those two didn't change at all. Pick 6, I had Ashton Jeanty go to Vegas. That also isn't going to change. They like the offensive skill positions that are very dynamic. And yards after contact, Ashton Jeanty had more rushing yards than the second place running back in the FBS this year, which was Cam Skattebo and then Amari Hampton. So Ashton Jeanty's one of a kind. I think he's a better prospect than Bijan Robinson, and he's going to go higher than where Bijan Robinson went. The New York Jets, they need a quarterback. So I had Shedeur Sanders go 42 my last mock, which was really kind of a stretch. I view him more closer to Tyler Shuck out of Louisville than Cam Ward. So maybe that's a little bit of foreshadowing as to where Tyler Shuck goes. Or I think Tyler Shuck goes. So Shedeur Sanders at 7 to New York. Number 8, Carolina. Ted McMillan absolutely in play. Jahdae Barron could be in play here. Will Johnson's in play. Edge rushers are in play. Tackle certainly in play. I think this is going to be an edge, though. Jalen Walker could be the pick here. Shamar Stewart could be the pick here. Michael Williams, Mike Green, all viable options. James Pierce Jr. as well. I don't think Jahad Campbell's a top 10 pick, but he's definitely in that 10 to 20 range. I think we're going to roll with Jalen Walker. Actually, I like Michael Williams a little bit more, so we'll roll with him at 8. Pick 9. We got the New Orleans Saints. Now, a lot of people, I disagree with a lot of people on this, where, like, this is a Jonty landing spot, this is a Warren landing spot. I don't see that at all. I see this team as a potential number 1 pick team next year. This team's going to be bad next year. And how do you get better the quickest? You improve on the trenches and you get a quarterback. No quarterback here, so you improve on the trenches. And who's the next best guy in the trenches to take? You got Josh Simmons, you got Kelvin Banks, you have Membu, you have Booker, and then you also have Pierce, Green, Walker, and Stewart. I believe I took Shamar Stewart last time around. So we'll switch this up. We'll take an offensive tackle here. We're going to roll with Armand Membu out of Missouri. Definitely a viable option with Ryan Ramczyk. I believe he retired. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm like 90% sure he's 90% to retirement. Whatever weight that holds. Bears, I had them take Mike Green, and also the Panthers, by the way, I also had them take Jalen Walker last time around. This time the Bears on the clock here. There's a fit I really, really like with the Bears here, and that is going to be Tyler Booker out of Alabama. Big frickin' hands. He's going to be an absolute mauler in the run game. He's going to definitely improve the overall scheme of the offense. I think you could 100% argue defensive end here for the Bears, and I wouldn't be opposed to it. But man, Tyler Booker measured really well today at the combine. I think he's going to be consistently mocked in that top 20 there. I don't think he's fallen out of that range. I'm a fan of him. He might be my second offensive lineman. I got to see where Brandon Thorne comes in on his offensive line rankings, so we'll see that, but I really like Tyler Booker so far. San Francisco just traded Deebo Samuel. They're mulling trading Ayuk, and Pearsall could be the best receiver left on the roster. Juwan Jennings was great in contested catch situations. Ricky Pearsall's a great man-to-man receiver. And I see Ted McMillan as kind of just a guy who can do both those things very, very well. So I don't really see Ted McMillan as a viable landing spot in San Francisco. I could see them going and grabbing like a Tez Johnson in the later on. If Tez Johnson's sitting there in the third or something like that, I could see that. Last mock I had Josh Simmons to San Francisco. I think this is tackle, DB, or defensive line. A lot of people have had Jahdae Barron here. A couple people have had Starks here. A lot of people have had Pierce here. I really like that kind of tackle movement, so I'm gonna keep that going a little bit. It's kind of between Simmons and Banks here. I'm gonna go Simmons. I like Simmons a little bit more. I feel like he was better prior to his injury. Banks didn't have a wow year to really solidify himself as a OT1 or OT2 in this class. That brings us to the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas could. Dallas was another team mentioned in terms of coming up to number one. I really think they want to take an edge here. You got Mike Green still on the board. You got Shamar Stewart still on the board. Jalen Walker still on the board. I think they're just gonna take an off-ball linebacker converted to an edge again. With I believe the same. I think Parsons either went 11 or 12. He might have gone 11, but Jalen Walker is a pick here at 12. Very good fit there. He'd be very. You'd be exposed to a lot of different looks and whatnot that Brian Schottenheimer is going to bring along with that defense. Miami, this is tackle all day. Whoever I think San Francisco doesn't take of the two tackles, Miami's going to take. And also, Dallas could take their franchise quarterback. I had Dallas last draft take Mykel Williams. I think Mykel Williams has solidified himself as a top 12 pick. I don't see a situation where he falls outside of that top 12. But here, Miami's going to take Kelvin Banks Jr. I had Miami last mock take Tyler Warren out of Penn State. Tyler Warren's one of those intriguing prospects that, again, could go like 7. And at the latest, he could probably go. I don't see him getting past Denver. So he's a really kind of polarizing prospect in terms of. Because it's a weird year of positional value where you don't necessarily know if a team is going to overinvest in a not. Or overinvest in a kind of an abundant position like tight end. Fantasy-wise, it's not great tight end-wise, I'm going to be honest. But blocking-wise and overall impact on an offense, like the blocking holds some water. Is Indy going to keep putting off defensive back? Because there's my next two defensive backs in my rankings are right here sitting in their lap. I'm actually going to go Jahdae Barron. I'm going to stop dancing around the pick. Jahdae Barron to the Colts, back-to-back Longhorns. I had Will Johnson in my last mock go to Indianapolis. Now, this pick, by far, is the easiest pick in the first round. This is the easiest pick in the first round to determine. There are a couple teams where it's like really obvious, like for example, Tennessee or Cleveland, New York is going to end up with a quarterback in the first 2 rounds. Atlanta, this is a slam dunk edge. You're taking an edge. This is pretty much between Mike Green, James Pierce Jr., and Shamar Stewart. I'm going to stop the Shamar Stewart fall. And he is going to go 15th overall here to the Falcons. If they had an edge, if they had taken Jared Verse instead of Michael Penix last year, I personally think they're in the playoffs right now. Or not right now, but they're automatic playoff team. Like we wouldn't see we wouldn't have seen Green Bay. Like, that would have been Atlanta in the playoffs, not Green Bay. So that transitions us to Arizona. And by the way, I had James Pierce Jr. to Atlanta. My last mock, this one we got Shamar Stewart. Arizona's got to shore up that defensive line. They've got to shore up the offensive line. This is a team that could surprise somebody by taking a running back, especially with extending James Conner and drafting Trey Benson last year. But I'm not completely holding out on them not taking a running back in the first 3 rounds. They've got, I'm trying to remember their next picks. I think they might have another pick in the 3rd round. But they could spend another 3rd round pick on a running back, and I would not be surprised by that. I don't think they're taking a running back this high, though. this is actually where I think the next defensive tackle is going to come off the board. Now, Kenneth Grant was a plus pass rusher compared to Mason Graham. I think he was a better pass rusher, but Mason Graham blew him out of the water in terms of run stopping. So it's kind of, what do you want there? You got Darius Robinson there. And then I believe they brought in Baron Browning via trade. So there's a lot of very good defensive tackles in this class. All these guys you see right here, all viable guys to go in the first 2 rounds of the draft. Here, actually, though, I'm going to take Walter Nolan, and that'll certainly fill a need. Last mock I did, I had Tyler Booker going here, but here we had Tyler Booker going all the way up to the Bears. And here we got Cincinnati at 17. I think T. Higgins is going to stick out the rest of the year. I don't think he's getting moved. And I also think they're going to pay Ja'Marr Chase what he wants. I don't think they're going to screw around like they usually do with that kind of stuff. So I think they're going to pass up on the receivers. Tyler Warren's right here. They kind of need a tight end. Gesicki is serviceable, but he's not, oh my Lord, wow. And I think he's a free agent anyway. But, and like, this is another really easy pick, in my opinion. This is edge or this is tackle. And if they take anything else, they're circling the drain. Like, we could see this team in the top 10 if they don't take an edge or a tackle in this draft. Or, by the grace of God, get one in free agency. Defensive tackle's also deep in free agency, too. There's 6 or 7 guys you could genuinely sign, plug and play on not super big contracts and get production out of them. So this is defensive tackle, defensive end, or offensive line. I don't see them taking an interior guy here. You could argue Zabel here, maybe, but there's so many edge guys. I think you just got to take the best player available and take James Pierce Jr. There he goes at 17 to the Bengals. Last mock, I had Kelvin Banks Jr. I don't think Kelvin Banks is a weird prospect. He could go 27 and I wouldn't be shocked. So Seattle. Next pickup is Seattle. This could be linebacker. This could be interior offensive line. Now I think about it, I'm not wild about that interior offensive line idea, just with who's on the board. This could be a surprise Tyler Warren spot. But yeah, looking at the interior offensive lines, Jared Wilson had a good day at the combine, but I don't think he's moving all the way up into the first round. And you could argue that Imbo is guard. You could argue that. I wouldn't hate it. But I think this is going to be Jahad Campbell out of Alabama, stealing from the Buccaneers, who I had Jahad Campbell go to the Bucs last mock. Now they got to kind of, not scramble, but transition into a different direction. But thankfully for them, they've got Mike Green available. So Mike Green's going to join the Bucs at 19. I like that pick a lot. And here's where the Ted McMillan slide's going to stop. Ted McMillan goes 20 to the Broncos. And I had that same thing in the last mock. For Seattle, I had Ezeraku, and then I had Campbell at 19 for the Bucs. Steelers, it seems obvious, right? It seems like it's a receiver. It seems like it's Luther Burden. It seems like it's Matthew Golden. It seems like it might be a quarterback. But I think it's a defensive back. And man, would Will Johnson in this secondary go absolutely nuts. I'm just going off of history. I don't think the Steelers are necessarily interested in taking a receiver this high. They'll probably take one in the second round. I think they'll definitely explore that. But this is going to be Will Johnson here. Here is another surprise pick. Kind of, not really. Daniel Jeremiah said he'd be shocked if this guy went outside the first round, or went after the first round, went day 2. And this guy's been very productive. He's got a lot of speed, got good acceleration. He holds on to the ball well. Pretty good agility, decent vision. Not as good as Shanti's, but definitely had a productive year at North Carolina with the Tar Heels. And Amari Hampton goes to the Chargers. Green Bay at 23. Now, actually, the Steelers, I had taking Malachi Starks last mock, and I had the Chargers taking Kenneth Grant. I know Jim Harbaugh would be a little angsty to take Kenneth Grant or Colston Loveland in that spot, but Amari Hampton, I think, is way too good of a prospect to pass up at the running back position. Green Bay. Now, Green Bay's been linked to DK Metcalf. They've also been shopping Jair Alexander. Now, there's a corner I really have kind of fallen in love with a little bit, so to speak, especially with his great combine performance, and that was Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky. And that's where we're going to go here. I know it's a little bit of a reach there, but I feel a little more confident in Hairston's ability to hold on to the ball when he gets a pick coming his way. I think he can blow by receivers if he picks the ball off. He can definitely take it to the house. I think he's a good cover corner, and he has the speed to keep up with the receivers, especially in that NFC North. Now here, Minnesota. This is crucial here. This is the pick to protect your franchise quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. You take Ursary here. You could take Donovan Jackson. I'm kind of more an Ursary fan, so that's the pick here. Ariante Ursary going to the Vikings at 24. Running backs also in play here. Edge rushers in play. Linebackers in play. Now, Houston, one of the few teams that doesn't really need an edge, but you could obviously see them taking a depth one, late 5th, 6th, 7th, whatnot, but that's not entirely important because we're just focusing on the first round today. They drafted the Kalen Bullock pick last year was an unbelievable pick. I was a massive fan of that. And then I think Kamari Lassiter also was drafted by Houston, and I like that pick a lot. So their secondary is set, and I think they got to just be able to compete in the interior, be able to stop the run. Derek Harmon, welcome to Houston. And LA, slam dunk. Tyler Warren, that false stops. 26, where he goes. He can catch. He can emphatically replace any tight end in that system, whether it's Higbee or Parkinson. So he just waltzes in, takes the job, no problem. Here's where Donovan Ezeraku's fall is probably going to stop. And then Man, I would love to take Nicky Manwari. But they got Kyle Hamilton. Ezaraku at 27 to the not Colts, Ravens. Wrapping up those last couple of picks. Last mock I had Packers grabbing Ravel. I had Minnesota grabbing Harmon. I had Houston grabbing Burden. I had the Rams grabbing London. And I had the Ravens grabbing Donovan Jackson. So, different Donovan this time. The offensive line is 100% in play, though. Totally wouldn't be opposed to seeing that in the first round. Now, here's where Nicky Manwari comes off the board. Nicky Manwari also went to Detroit in my last mock. I just really couldn't find a fit for him. This guy could be a top 15 pick, and I wouldn't be shocked. It's just, where does he go? Green Bay? Maybe Pittsburgh? I don't know if I'm ready to put Nicky Manwari above Will Johnson, but he's close. He's close. I'm not ready to put Manwari higher, but he's definitely close. And then Washington, guess what? They don't need a receiver in the first round, at least. They could probably take one in the third or fourth, but they don't need a receiver now. They got Deebo Samuel. I love that fit. And Zach Ertz is getting older. Colston Loveland is in play here. I really think he is in play. Corner is also in play here. Ravel. I like Watts. I like a lot. The safety out of Notre Dame. Really had a good, strong end of the year. Malachi Starks. Didn't really have a great CFP, but we all have our bad games, you know. My next best edge on the board would be Landon Jackson out of Arkansas. He had a really good combine. I think I'm actually going to reward him with a first round pick here. He definitely came a long way in those 5 years, if you know what clip I'm referencing. So, Landon Jackson to Washington at 29. That leaves us at 30 with a few guys left on the board. Mecca Buka, my number 2 wide receiver. We got Darius Alexander here. Josh Connerly Jr., TJ Sanders, Ravel, Shamar Turner. I don't think a running back's happening with this pick. I think they're going to roll with James Cook and Ray Davis. But Kenneth Grant's here, and they need an interior guy. I think this is a slam dunk, now that I think about it. This is tackle or defensive line. I like Darius Alexander here. He would fill a need and a gap with no. You got Tershawn Wharton potentially leaving in free agency. You also have Justin Reed potentially leaving as well. So Malachi Starks could be in play. I like Darius Alexander, though. Make him a first-round pick. You could also talk me into a running back there. Wouldn't hate you there. And, man, we are just leaving Georgia defensive players for the Eagles to snatch up. And Malachi Starks, 32 overall, to the Eagles. Now, my favorite pick of this draft, I think the Lions got a steal with Manwari. Eagles got a steal with Starks. My favorite, though, I'd have to say is Tyler Booker to the Bears. I also really like Hampton to the Chargers. But yeah, those last couple of picks, I had Nolan originally in my first mock to Washington. Then I had Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State. Then I had Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. And then I had Jahdae Barron out of Texas. So that wraps up my second mock, as well as a recap of that first mock.